Oh man, but that means that there's a whole bunch of people in this chat who haven't heard the story of my extremely crazy mobile game faction IRL politic and spy intrigue thing that happened. I guess I'll just try and tell the story as briefly as possible. So once upon a time, a couple months ago, maybe like half a year ago, I downloaded a mobile game, called Royal Chaos, and in Royal Chaos, you are one of the Chinese emperor's concubines. This is set like 1,000 years ago, back when the Chinese emperor had concubines. And so you and literally every single other person in the palace that is playing the game are sharing a server, and you're all concubines, and you're all literally fighting to be the most favored concubine of the emperor. And there's like a story, but it's like super complex. Like there's combat, like there's RPG combat to represent like the palace intrigue and like spreading rumors, and you can join a guild, and you can collect outfits to boost your stats, and you can have pets that boost your stats, and you can go on dates with the emperor and that boosts your stats, and you can also put gems on your character and that'll boost your stats, and you can put weapons on your character and that'll boost your stats, and you can collect different heroes through a gacha machine that will also boost your team, and there's a whole strategy thing there. It's like it's literally one of the most complicated games, period, I've ever played. Not just mobile games, but games, period, that I've ever played. So, I joined a faction in this mobile game, and the thing is that all factions are split into two categories, East versus West, and like one of them is supporting the current favored concubine of the emperor in the main story, in like the actual story of the game, and one of them is supporting the actual empress, like the queen herself. So I joined the faction that's supporting the empress, and then there's a bunch of individual factions underneath that. So I picked one and joined it, and what happened was a bunch of, like, an entire guild from a different server migrated over to this new server the day that I joined it, and they all went into the West faction. And they were huge, and they started dominating every single scheduled faction versus faction fight that happened. Hello, Final Senator. You can actually start a farm in that game, and it does boost your stats. So you're not wrong, Clono. You're not wrong. So they were like literally for months after months, they were dominating the faction fight, and they weren't just dominating faction fight. There was a treasure hunt that you could do, and they were winning that. There was a pageant that you could do for fashion, and they were winning that every time. And there was a like one-on-one ranking, and at the very top of the one-on-one ranking, only one person can hold this position for a week, and then you have to fight. It opens up on Friday. You fight the person to get this position, and then they have the position for a whole week, and there's an exclusive outfit that you get for this position, and they had that. They were dominating that and completely controlling it just within their own faction. And originally the server was really friendly and everybody was super happy and loved each other, but as this domination continued, people started to get really frustrated, and like whenever anybody raised any kind of concern, they were like, oh, just play the game and get good, it's fine, like it's fine, it's not our fault that we're good at the game. So people started getting frustrated with my actual faction's leader, because we were like the biggest faction to like combat them, but we were still way smaller than them. And in response to this, like the faction's leader basically just kept saying like, there's no point in doing anything because they're gonna win anyways. And so one of the other girls in that faction started to rise up and be like, well, I'll just take charge and I'll try to organize things and try to work together with people in order to get some people some things, and it'll be fine. And when she did that, my original faction leader got mad at her for trying to take control of the faction from her and going behind her back to organize treaties with the other team, and literally dismantled the entire thing. And this is important because when you dismantle an entire faction, everybody loses attack power. So we all instantly lost 200,000 attack power because one girl got mad and decided to rage quit and take everybody down with her. This this isn't like, we haven't even started. This is the very, very beginning of this, okay? So when this happened, like, our entire faction got on Discord and started talking, and we're like, what the hell is happening? This is like, what do we do? And we decided to start our own faction from scratch and try to build it up in order to compete against the West. And so month after month, we are trying to rebuild this faction. Week after week, we're crawling up from the ashes slowly. And like, of course, in the meantime, our enemy faction is dominating everything because they just lost their biggest competitor. And so we make a kind of a treaty with them so that they kind of spare us a little bit as we build up the faction. So we end up rising very significantly. Now, important fact, at the time that this was happening, there's like a leaderboard of the top players in a given server, and I was one of the top players in the server. And this is important because in the top 5, every single person was a member of our enemy faction except for me, and I was top 3. So the better that I was getting, the more people were having hope that we would eventually be able to beat them in the faction war, because the way that the online matchups work, you don't necessarily need everybody to beat everybody constantly. You just need somebody strong enough to take out their strongest members occasionally, and then you can possibly win. Can confirm. Zek can confirm. So like, at this point, I was like trying my very hardest to try and get as strong as possible. People were literally offering to like send me money so I could buy things in the game in order to make my character more powerful, because all of our faction's hopes were pinned on me, and it was very stressful. It was a stressful time. Meanwhile, as we're going through, our like brand of being peaceful and kind and making treaties with people is getting us to start winning pageant. We're starting to win treasure hunt. We're like working together, and we're actually, honestly, because of the way that it worked out, everybody in the faction was so dedicated because we had to build from the bottom up that our faction suddenly started dominating. And so we won faction war, and then the next week we won it again, and then the next week we won it again. And so this started happening, and the other teams started getting really mad. And they were the whales of the game, so they just kept spending money on it to try and beat us, and it would work for a time, and then it wouldn't work, and like it was just like back and forth. We were trying to smack each other across the face, everybody with the goal of getting the like #1 spot in the game, that #1 spot with the best outfit in the game that everybody wanted. So around this time, because we finally started winning faction war, I want to back out, because I'm like, this game is consuming my life. Like, it's stressful. I've spent a ton of money on it, so much I don't even want to admit how much I've spent on it. I would like out. And so because I was the only person at the time in the top 5 who was a contender, you guys have to, like, you guys can't tell anybody this. But I quit the game and gave them my account to play instead. And they continued to masquerade as me with a name change, because they didn't want anybody to know that I quit the game, because I was in the top 3, so I carried a lot of weight. So that started happening, and they just started basically posing as me in the game. And to my knowledge, nobody has figured it out. And like occasionally I still get messages about stuff that's happening, and I need to like weigh in on it, but so they still don't know that that has happened. So as this happens, we bring in help, like we bring in basically an expert player from another server to come through and basically go through everything to try and like make our faction the best possible faction that it can be. Hey, Tim has gifted a sub to Orange Zorua. Welcome to the fold, Orange Zorua, and thank you, Tim. And also, Sean, thank you for resubscribing. 10 month streak is very impressive. Yes, welcome back to the fold. Okay, I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm sorry, this story is very long, I realize now. Anyways, so we've got people posing as me, and we've got this other person who's come in and is like literally just min-maxing everything about the game. So you guys have to keep this a secret. Around this time, let's just say that suspicions get raised about spies appearing in both factions, on both sides. So suddenly people are extremely worried that people are joining these enemy factions and are just using those accounts to spy on them and undermine them and like get their plans, figure out what the plan is, figure out what the goal is, steal their power-ups and all those things before the other people can do this. And once that started happening, it exploded everywhere. There were just like, you couldn't, like, nobody could trust anybody anymore. It was impossible to tell who was real and who wasn't, and real people were getting mistaken for bots, and like, just like everything just blew up and fell apart. it's an anime. And like, I don't know how to, I just don't know how to explain how intense this was to be both on the inside and the outside of this game, because like this game is literally just a bunch of like women in their teens to 20s. It's just like everybody who's playing this game is a young woman who is like teens to 20s, and they're like just creating this like ultimate legion of like intrigue, spies, strategy, battle, like befriending people, not befriending people, like spreading rumors and like making people untrustworthy, convincing other people that they need to trust them and not this other like, it just literally, everything just like exploded. And after the dust settled, those people who were in the top 2 spots in this other faction, the top 2 rank of our entire server, quit. They permanently quit. And since then, to my knowledge, we've just taken over everything. We are fairer than they were. Like, we try to do a rotation so that everybody gets a chance to like have the outfits, everybody gets a chance to win the pageants. The only thing that we don't rotate is faction war, which we win every time, so whatever. But like I just am like, no, they didn't get banned. They just quit. Like, they just got mad that they had spent so much money on this game to try and win. And basically, from what I understand, what they were feeling was that their side of the faction wasn't dedicated, because they were just like, they were originally this group, and then some of them started migrating to other servers, and like people in our faction did that as well. People started migrating to other servers, and like other people were just joining them because they were the biggest faction. So it was just a bunch of people who didn't necessarily care as much, whereas our faction literally rose from the ashes of a destroyed faction. So most of the people who were in our faction were people who deeply cared and were dedicating hours of time to this outside of just the hours required to play the game. It was, I just wanted you guys to know, because like this game was definitely designed with the intention of creating this. It was designed with the intention of creating political intrigue. It was designed with the intention of pitting people against each other, both like friends and foes against each other, so that you would want to spend more money. Good night, thank you for coming, Pants Man. I'm glad you enjoyed the story. It was just like designed this way. And it is honestly one of the most sinisterly designed mobile games I have ever played. It was ingenious in a terrible way. I just like, I had heard that the game had problems with bullying, which now I kind of understand how somebody could feel bullied in a system like this, that every server is kind of like this to some extent. And I had also heard that somebody was using the game to study, like academically study politics and like how humans like how that works with humans, that they were literally using the game to study it. And I believe it. I believe it. Anyways, thank you guys for indulging me on this, like, what was it, like 15-minute long monologue. I apologize that it was so long. I just, like, it's one of the crazier experiences that I've had in my life, and it astounds me that it was created from a mobile game. Like, it astounds me that this came from just a chill game about dressing up pretty and trying to seduce the emperor. I'm glad you guys liked it. I'm glad you liked it. The game is called Royal Chaos. I'm warning you, like, it's really fun, and the story is, like, basically a C-drama or a K-drama. It's, like, egregious, it's crazy. Like, in the actual plot of the story, it's, like, people getting pregnant left and right, people murdering babies, people murdering hoes, people murdering empresses, they're murdering, they're killing, they're framing, they're poisoning. It's just, war is happening. It's just everywhere, constant. Like, just the main story is like that. Also, the Emperor sucks. Like, he's the worst one. You do not want to date the Emperor. Anyways.